好的，今天是我们这个第二期的一个三人圆桌会议啊，很高兴我们这次能够请到我们的爵士架子鼓这边的系主任，然后还有我们的一个架子鼓这边的一个校友。好，今天的话我会让他们俩先自己单独介绍一下他们两个人。Hey guys, thank you so much for accepting my invitation for this event today. And I'm so glad and happy to have you guys here. So could you guys to introduce yourself first? How about from you, Stewart?
Sure. Tank, thank you for inviting me to this. This is excellent that you're doing this, and we appreciate it. My name is Jean. I am the Director of Performance Programs at Musicians Institute. That was my title for the last year, but since, let's say 2008, I was the chair for the drum program at Musicians Institute, and I was able to create the program that students are taking today, and I deal with scheduling faculty and writing new courses and working with students, making sure students are getting the best education that they can.
Okay, great. Your turn.
All right. 大家好，我叫冯谭波啊，然后我是14年年初去台湾，然后毕业于2017年，然后9月份，然后现在呢是在中国，然后国内做自己的乐队，然后我乐队叫大教控，然后是一名职业鼓手，然后同时我在 MI 还修了 Audio Engineering program，然后也是一名录音师。
Okay. Thank you. So could you guys introduce your program, the drum program, like the courses, facilities, or other something special?
Absolutely. I can give you the whole rundown.
Thank you.
If you want me to do that. So the drum program at Musicians Institute, we have some different programs. We have what is called the certificate program, which is 1 year, 4 quarters. We do a quarter system. We do 10 weeks of classes, and then 1 week testing, then 2 weeks on a break. So 13 weeks all year round. Right now we are in the end of our winter quarter, and we're going to be heading into our spring quarter for 2021. So the certificate program, 1 year, you take 60 credits, which is 15 credits per quarter. For the drummers, they have a private lesson every week with an instructor that they get assigned. But as they go through their time at MI, they can pick their own instructor that fits their needs and goals. We also have a reading class. So reading 1, 2, 3, 4. The reading class starts single surface for people that have never read music ever. So if you've never read music, you can still get into MI certificate program. And we do basic reading. And then reading 2, we get into applying the reading to more of the drum set. Reading 3, we get more into interpreting and setting up ensemble figures and reading more lead sheets. And then reading 4, we get into odd meter and more advanced ideas. Then we have our technique classes, 4 quarters of technique. Technique 1, basic rudiments, hand, grip, fulcrum, proper grip, proper seat height, sitting at the drum set, proper bass drum, and leg coordination and technique. In quarter 2, we get more into applying everything to the full kit, rudimental to the kit, hand-foot coordination. In technique 3, we get more into left-hand independence under the jazz ride cymbal and refine the hands and work on velocity and speed. And quarter 4, we get into metric modulation, linear, more licks, things like that, more advanced drum set ideas. Then we have our performance classes. This is great. This is where every week the student is learning a different style of music and the responsibilities of a drummer from style to style and scenario to scenario. We start out simple, and we go through, pop rock, getting through making good sounds on the drum set, the right sounds for the song, for the needs of the song. Then we have the chart as well. You have to read the chart and make sure that you're following everything on the chart. And then there's a live band. There's a bass player and a guitar player, teaching assistants. So there's also the communication with the band, counting in the band and communicating, cueing each other, things like that. All these little details that you need as a professional drummer. So 4 quarters of that, we go through rock, country, R&B, hip hop, using sample pads, 6/8 Latin, samba, odd meter, halftime shuffle, blues, funk, every style you can think of. We make sure the students understand and have at least a basic understanding of what their job is when they're doing those types of styles. So that's the main nucleus of the certificate program for drummers, is the reading, technique, and performance. We have a class called Developing Your Groove, and we have a class called Timekeeping. You also learn a DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, Logic, Ableton Live, Pro Tools, or Reason. We have 4 options. Drummers also learn a class specifically on e-drumming and, basic triggering and programming, getting used to playing pads and playing a hybrid drum set. And then, of course, harmony and theory, ear training, a little bit of piano proficiency, nothing too hard, but basic piano skills for every musician at the school, drummers included. And then we get into, that's a certificate program, basically. There's the live performance workshops where you're learning a song, a real song, again, all kinds of styles, every style, R&B, hip hop, rap, pop, metal, classic rock, fusion, singer-songwriter, soundtracks, everything. You learn the song, you get on stage, and you count the band in, and you as the drummer, you got to play that song. You get graded by the teacher, you get 1 shot. And you do that every week, and you do at least 10 performances. Ideally, you do way more, 10, 20, 30, 40, because this is where you're really on stage by yourself doing it for real. It's not a classroom, it's a concert stage. So that's the live performance workshops. That's your certificate program. Next, after certificate, we have our associates program, very popular with our students. And that's the same first 4 quarters as certificate, but there's 2 more quarters. So it's 1.5 years, 90 credits. So we have quarters 5 and 6 for the associates program. The big difference is you have studio recording classes, and you have jazz class, you have Latin class, or you can do a R&B gospel class. And you continue with live performance workshops, you continue with your private lessons, but we move into the phase we call professional development, where, it's very important today that you have to be a great player, but you also have to have the business skills. You have to understand the business and how to have a website, put up social media content, how to negotiate a contract, how to work with people, how to pick a management team. You may have these responsibilities in your career, and you want to be able to do this right. A lot of our students that graduated before we offered these classes back in the early 2000s and 90s and 80s and all that, we did not teach them the business classes. And those students would say later when I talk to them, what didn't we teach you? What looking back now, 5 years, 10 years, what did we do wrong? And they all said, I don't know enough about the business. So for the associates program, we thought it was very important. So since 2014, all students take independent artist marketing, music business basics, visual media. These are important classes. It's a shame when someone has a lot of talent but can't get work because of, they just don't have that business side together. It's so important. I know we all want to play licks and chops and all that, but on top of that, we have to be smart business people.
Yeah.
And then we have success. All the people that our students look up to, all the great drummers out there know how to negotiate, know how to answer emails on time, sound like a professional, and act like a professional. So very important. So that's our certificate and associates programs. Hanbo, I would love to know your experiences, classes that you loved when you took the classes at MI. What did you feel was the most surprising class that you did not expect? You knew you were going to learn reading and play with people and learn styles. You knew that. But what really surprised you?
Oh, I think the quarter 5, 6, like doing the music business class, that class is really hard.
Hey, you know what? They are hard, but hard work is important, right?
Yeah.
It's important to do the hard work. And, it's hard for our young students to have to accept the fact that those business classes are so important. And what happens is 10 years goes by and you go, man, I wish I had known more. I say that. I went to a 4-year college and only concerned about playing. That's it. And it took me, when I graduated college and I was a great drummer and I got gigs, but who knows what would have happened if I had a little more sense of, I really have to have my image and a goal and a vision for the way I see things. And the drummers I know that I went to school with that are highly successful had that vision when they were younger. They had that vision. Brendan Buckley, he's a super famous drummer, and he works all the time. And he knew when he was 16, 17, 18, he knew what he wanted to do. And he saw that big picture and saw the whole thing. And you have to be able to visualize it. And it's daunting. It's hard for a young person to have to think of that, So what we do at MI is do our best to help keep the focus and balance the playing, the business, the ear training, the theory, very important stuff. I wouldn't be working at MI if I didn't know this instrument.
Yeah.
Seriously, this is what got me hired, not this. I taught this, but I moved to LA in 2003. I was 35 years old. I was a professional musician working for years. And I went to MI and I was a teaching assistant. And I was just playing drums in classes for guitar players and bass players. Great, it's fine. But I played good. And so the teachers that I worked with were talking about me. And the guy who ran the drum program back then heard about me and said, hey, can you teach drummers theory and piano? And I first said, no way.
Piano?
No way. How can I do that?
Teach
I hadn't
piano
touched a piano in a
for a
long
drummer.
time. What's that?
For a drummer to teach piano. I mean, come on.
And to teach it to drummers. I taught it to drummers only. Fridays, 4 classes, 4 hours in a row, 30 students, 30 students, 30 students, 30 students. And the drummers didn't want to learn it. They don't want to learn piano.
Yeah, definitely.
But so it was learning for me to explain to them how important it was. I was so lucky because I realized that I got a degree. I learned enough on this instrument. I can't play a gig on this instrument, but I can play this thing good enough, especially into this thing, but I can play this enough to where, and it got me hired at MI, that I said, oh, I can teach people scales. And I look back going, I'm so glad I got my degree, and at the time I didn't care. I just went through the motions and learned it, but it stuck, So all the skills we can have as a drummer, I make a joke about the school. It's called Musicians Institute, not Drummer World, right? It's for a drummer is a musician, right? And the best musicians in the world are drummers. Steve Gadd is probably the best musician, not just the best drummer, but the best musician on the planet. He's so smart, and he cares about the music. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
So, Hanbo, what was your favorite class?
For me,
yeah.
I think all the classes I really like all the class for me.
Yeah. Do you feel like the classes connected?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All the class really got really connect really great, I think. Who wrote the class is really great, I think.
Yeah, made
so
sense.
when I think in the quarter one, play the single solo and then play the easy groove. When you study some flam things, and then you play the song with a flam feel.
Yeah, exactly.
But how about you? How about you, Steve? I mean, which one is your favorite course at MI?
My favorite course, I mean, I love all our classes, just like Hanbo said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
But, they all have their importance. And that's why I asked Hanbo, did they connect? Because you have to have relevance. A student has to understand why they're learning something, especially someone young. They have to understand the importance and the relevance and why am I doing this, So I like it all, but if I had to, I like my reading 3 class and reading 4. I wrote those classes and I feel like, reading music, I'll tell you right now, not every drummer reads music. Buddy Rich didn't read music. And you can have a career by not reading music. And a lot of musicians, on sessions and all that, there's no music, So I'm not going to lie to you and say you have to know how to read music. But that being said, it only helps your ability to play the instrument and work. Because if you might be in a situation where you are asked to read, My problem with a lot of schools in the U.S. is the reading that they teach isn't practical to what you need today. And I like, to answer your question, Tank, I like my reading 3 and reading 4 because I feel like they challenge the students enough, but they're practical. And really all the reading classes, they're based on the reality of what you really need to work in this business. Yeah, you can become an amazing reader. There's some Bernie Dressel, a drummer in town, can read anything. Vinny Colaiuta, you can put anything, and the first time they see it, they'll read it. Not everyone's like that, and you don't have to be that. But you should have a basic level. Just like you should have a basic ability to play a basic groove and make a good sound, and function as a drummer, You should have a basic level of reading. So I'm proud of the reading classes because I think the students are getting what they actually will apply in their real life, I think. Do you think so, Hanbo? Did the reading classes work for you?
Yeah, of course. I can read really good, I think.
Very cool. Now, could you read music before you came to MI?
I think not that good. Especially helped me a lot is the LPW class. I read the lead key. Yeah, I do a lot of LPW for aerobics, and then read. I just go to the library before the LPW, an hour, and then I got a chart and read it and go play.
That's great. That's so smart of you. And because you also have to remember some of the tune too. It's not all on the chart. So. Yeah, very cool.
Okay.
How about the LPWs, Hanbo? When you, what was it like the very first time you got on stage? And had to go 1, 2, and count that song in with a band? Do you remember what that first experience was?
I really remember that thing. I think the first week on Friday is a punk LPW. Before I go to before I go to school, I only play punk music, so I go to punk LPW. But it's like really nervous. Like everything, like I almost forget the song, and then like just play and tell me, okay, don't be nervous. Finish that song. And then I finish the song. I think the private teacher, the teacher for the punk LPW is Tom Plum.
Yeah.
He helped me a lot. Yeah.
Tom's
like,
great, you know.
Yeah, Tom is great.
And do you feel like the instructors really, you know, they cared about your education?
Yeah, of course. So after the LPW, you can go to the MI, the website. There is a score on the first line, and then this write the music quality, like something I forget. It's like there's 4 things here. Got 4 different score,
yeah.
And then totally is 100, I think.
Very
sure.
Good.
And then the instructor will write down something on the bottom on the line, like you need a D guitar or something.
We always say that. Hit harder.
Sure. It really helps me a lot. Yeah.
That's great.
That's great.
And then there's open counseling for every week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So all the teachers in the room, and then if you got some question, just go in, walk in the classroom and ask the teacher some question.
Yeah, or jam with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so guys, could you share like the most impressive experience or memory at MI? I mean, both of you. How about Steve? From you, start, Stewart.
Me?
Yeah.
I know it exactly what I mean. I'm impressed every day with our students.
Definitely.
You know, it's inspiring to me and all the faculty to see all these people working so hard to achieve their dreams. So I'm impressed always, and I love my job and I love working at the school, and I'm absolutely lucky. But I'll tell you two times that I've been incredibly impressed. Was you know, we have a bachelor's program as well at MI, 3 years program, which connects to the AA and certificate and all that. And but to get into the bachelor program is a little harder than certificate and AA. You have to read music, you have to know some styles already, and your chops have to be pretty good. It can't be basic. And this is probably 2006, something like that. And I had this one guy applying for he got accepted, and he wanted to do bachelor's. And I was doing his placement test. We do a placement test after someone's accepted into the school. We then have another sort of audition to make sure we put them in the right classes. Maybe someone doesn't need to be in reading 1, or they can skip a class or something. For bachelor, you really have to get into the 3rd quarter, like of associates. That's really where your level has to be for the most part. Drummers, maybe the theory isn't quite there in the ear training, but that's okay. But the chops have to be there. And I was kind of new. So I did not accept this student. I didn't know any history of this student, hadn't heard their recordings, but here they were on the first day to get a placement test to find out what classes they're going to take. And from my opinion, I didn't think this student was ready for the bachelor program. I didn't think he was even really ready necessarily for the very first quarter. And he was from Mexico, and clearly he has his plan of I'll be in LA for 3 years getting my bachelor's, and he has X amount of money to do that. And now here I am telling him, you're not ready. And I've rocked his world. I've destroyed his world. He's standing there, and he's realizing that I'm adding 6 months to his time there. But I'm doing it because I know he can do it, but he has to do it right, because if I let him start at the 3rd quarter, he's going to fail and have a miserable experience because he's not ready, and he'll struggle and he might hurt himself by trying to play things he can't play. He needs the technique. So I explained to him, listen, for your own good, and I wouldn't do this to every student. Everyone's different. And in this case, I said, you have to start at the beginning. And his world was terrible, but he worked it out and he believed me. And it was hard for me to have to say that.
Yeah.
And about, I don't know how much longer, maybe a year later, like he was just doing his thing, going to classes, but he thanked me. He said, man, he said, at the time, I didn't want to hear what you had to say to me, and I didn't believe you, but he said, you were totally right. And his name is Ray Higuera, Ray Rojo. You can look him up. And, I barely allowed him into the school. And what I'm getting at is I'm so impressed with him because he worked so hard and he became a great drummer to where we hired him as a teaching assistant. I would probably use him as an instructor. He's great. And he's got the business sense. He makes videos. He's done really cool prog rock things. He writes his own music. He's really matured into this great person. And I look back and I'm so impressed with how hard he worked. And he's just a perfect example of all the students that are working so hard all the time. But I always think about him and that I'm so glad that I gave him the chance. I didn't just turn him away, and that he didn't take it as a bad experience. Because, if I did put him in the third quarter, maybe he wouldn't have made it and music would have been terrible and then he gives up, So I'm impressed with him. Second, I have to say this, where we are right now in the world with the pandemic and COVID, it's almost a year now that we had to lock the school down, lock the campus down, March 13th, 2020. And our drum students come to Hollywood expecting a drum set. They get, let's talk about the facilities you have on the campus. We give you a drum set to practice and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the best possible case any drummer could ever have to practice. No excuses, and we all struggle as drummers to play somewhere in an apartment, electronic drums, practice pads, mesh heads. You have to play real drums, really, ideally you play real drums and, and you put in a lot of hours. So immediately our drum students all the students at the school were affected, all the faculty, but the drum students to me really took it the hardest because they had nowhere to go, and they really had to work hard to figure out, what am I going to do? And someone back home and they had mics and lights and they had to get all this tech together, all the lights and the Zoom and all this and microphones and all this. And I've got to say, from day one to now, those students are still hanging in there and working hard. And they understand that they have to have this together. They have to have the content for Instagram and all. It's so important. So we're telling them in your classes, your content that you upload to us to grade, it can be, make it look great, make it sound great. It can be content as well. And so I've been at MI 17 years, and this past year has been the most impressive because of how hard the students have worked, how hard the faculty have worked. Tank, yourself, what you have to do. We're all going through this, and but the important thing is we have to keep going forward. We can't just wait for some. In the beginning of COVID, a lot of people were saying, I'm just going to wait till it ends. And it's like, well, you can't be in a pause and a holding pattern.
Yeah.
Especially when you're young and you're ready to chase your dreams, and you can do this online. It's not perfect, but it works and you can still learn. And so the school has done so good at flipping, to the online thing. which we were doing before COVID anyway. And when we're back on campus, we'll have we'll have MI on campus and we'll have MI online for any student that maybe can't make it to Hollywood, whether it's a visa situation, financial, life, who knows what. Every student, every situation is different. And we work with each person. Our admissions advisors do a great job of understanding the needs of someone that is thinking of, considering Musicians Institute, and really tries to work with them of like what's going to be best for them. It's so important. It's such a hard decision for someone, especially young people, to make to what school to go to. It's really tough. And there's so many great schools and so many options, and there's so many factors. And when someone puts their trust in Musicians Institute with their education and their future, we take that seriously. We understand the commitment that the student is making financially, logistically, dedication, everything about it. It takes up a big time of their life. Some people are married with kids and they're trying to squeeze this in. And so we really respect that, which is something I'm very proud of our school.
Thank you. How about you, Hanbo? 这块儿你用中文吧，就是说你觉得你在 MI
讲一下故事。
对，就是你觉得你的 MI 感觉印象最深刻的那么一段经历或者什么一事儿吧？
行，我讲讲我的故事吧，整体大概是一什么情况。因为我刚开始去美国，我不是学的这个专业，然后我也不在这个学校。刚开始因为我妈是一个大学经济教授，然后她特别想让我学什么金融啊、经济。当时我就开始去美国，然后在 college 里，然后读 accounting。然后但是觉得说他不是自己喜欢的东西。然后有一次我记得我去好莱坞，然后转，然后因为我那个去洛杉矶的时候，我就特别想去 MI。然后，但是因为阴差阳错没有去成。然后走 MI 前的时候看了一句话，叫那个 "Study something you love"。然后对，然后那个当时我看那句话，然后我就开始一直对我人生做一反思。然后我是12年大概夏天去的美国，然后到13年冬季我已经决定要转学了。那时候正好我妈然后去美国找我，然后去找我玩，然后我就跟我妈去把这个详细的计划一说明，怎么着。然后就反正说挺长时间吧，最后算说通了。然后最后去的 MI， 然后做申请，因为我是中间做转学，然后所以在美国，然后比较方便，因为拿220直接去学校，然后办一些手续，然后这个就 transfer 成功了。然后后来呢，其实我在 MI 对我最印象深刻的就是整体的环境吧，每个人都特别认真，特别努力去学习。我记得我第一次去 MI 转的时候呢，我走到在那个 Hollywood 那个路上那个大道上，然后有一个那个学校大门口，走进那条小路叫 Passage， 然后走到里头呢，然后才是学校那栋楼。然后当我走到那个学校里头那个第一步的时候，我就感觉说我周围大家的环境，就是说那种每个人热爱音乐的那种氛围，我那种环境特别吸引我。然后我的感受就是说，哎，这就是我想要去的学校，然后这就是我就是说，可能真的我想去做的一件事儿，就像那个门口那句话，然后所映射到就是我那种感受。然后刚开始进学校的时候呢，感觉就是说，因为也好长时间没有去打鼓了嘛，但是说因为真的是想好好去学习这个东西，所以就每天可能我在我租的公寓里待的时间都没有在学校那个鼓房待时间。我们叫鼓房，那个就是说整个10周休息2周，1周考试，然后休息2周，只关2天。那2天就是说临开学之前的那个周六跟周日，我只有基本上那2天，然后在家打鼓点，平时都在，就是说我平时都是在学校里练鼓嘛。然后那时候我住三丹摩尼卡，然后住特别远。我记得特清楚，我每天早起6点半准时起床，开着车就出门，因为我们家早上7点门口贴条。然后我就每天早起基本上到学校大概7点多一点，那时候早起不堵车也，然后就开始练嘛，练到可能晚上12点1点，然后回家，大概这么一状态。哇！反正睡的，就是说那时候真的挺努力的，然后睡特别少。然后在学校里，我是第一个跟第2个学期，然后刚开始读的是鼓，然后我第3个、第4个学期转到了 Audio Engineering。 我是想这个把基础的东西砸的再牢实一点，然后把这个东西做再稳定一点，然后再接着去学后面第3跟第4个 level， 因为它整体性会比前2个 level 有一个更强的加强。所以我又通过了第3、第4个 audio engineering 的学期，然后练鼓。然后第3个、第4个学期的时候回来就觉得这节课其实变得就特别简单，然后就因为好多东西已经就是说 ready 了，然后就是说我已经准备好，然后去上这个课，然后就去上。然后我记得我应该是在我走的时候，我把学校所有的 drum 的 elective 全上完了。
哇，
应该是这么一情况。我反正上了好多课，然后包括 audio 的课上了好多。然后后来，然后到5、6学期，然后选的是 music business， 然后那个课是真挺难的，我记得，因为尤其像一些就是刚去的时候，就是对这个音乐的这些，包括说business 上这些事情，其实不太了解。但是其实后期到我现在乐队签了公司，然后去看一些合同上的东西，去查一查，还是就我觉得非常有用，非常受用。
就非常的和商业化是一个商业化的帮助嘛。
对，然后我是17年9月17号毕业的，然后我就觉得说，我毕业的时候我才就是懂得一句话，就是说你付出的汗水，然后都不会被辜负的，就是宇宙是守恒的，就在你就是说做了很多事情的时候，可能不会直接去回报你，但是会有另外一种方式回报。然后我在17年我就是毕业的时候，然后9月17号记得特别清楚。当时呢，就是 Stewart， 然后把这个奖牌然后颁给了我，现在都颁在我都在我们家摆着，这就是 Stewart 跟我的合影。
What is it? What's the award? What was it?
Outstanding Student Award.
Outstanding student. Good job. Yeah.
Well
earned. We have the faculty vote. The faculty vote to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Conversation,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
是，然后学校里特别多，反正就是说，因为我做特别多的 LPW， 然后我大概一个学期做最少10个嘛，然后我基本上一个学期就50个起，大概这么一情况。我经常每周都穿梭在不同的 LPW， 然后周一到周五都有事儿。然后，而且我一个 LPW 没人的时候，我会一直打到那点结束，大概这么一情况，到给他打好了，因为有的可能不会有那么多人。然后你去了，你就可以一直打，跟老师去聊。然后包括你平时的课程表，因为这个 program 就是有的课，比如说周1、周3的课，它是对照的，上午有课，可能下午就没课。然后下午我的事儿就是去 OC， 基本上所有老师的那个 OC 几点，我会存一个我特别详细的课程表，就是在我没课的时候我就写几点谁有 OC 谁有时间了，然后我就把那个时间全充满了。然后基本上到5点，然后快速去门口吃口麦当劳，然后10分钟就回来接着念。这可能大概就是我在MI上学的时候那个状态。
Okay, thank you. So, Stewart, we got
to know what that was all about.
Hanbo just talk about his experience at MI. I mean, the entire experience. So actually, we got a question from some the Chinese agencies about the study abroad agency. So this question is for you, Stewart. So they want to ask what kind of student would you like to meet in the live audition, or what kind of a student is your favorite student, and you are the most you want to recruit to the MI.
Wow, that's a great question. I love all our students, and every student is different, but people that are auditioning, it's interesting. It can tell you a lot, a live audition is one thing because it's live.
Yeah.
And I can put them on the spot, it's really telling. I can watch them play, and then I can see what's good and what's not so good, and I might ask something to show what they're better at, or I might ask something to show what they're not as good at. And I like to see how they respond to what I say. Because if they can't handle me asking some questions and maybe poking around a little bit, they might not be ready to receive criticism from instructors, you know? So the type of student I look for is someone that is open-minded and is willing to work hard and willing to look at the big picture and understand that one little setback or one bad day is not a big deal. And that's a test. You know, if you have a bad day, Hanbo, I'm sure it happened to you, maybe a day where you thought you had it together. You were going to go into that LPW or that class and kill it. And you worked your heart out. And it didn't go so good in the class, you know? At that point, because I've been there where I thought I was ready for a gig and suddenly I'm not doing as good as I thought. And, you know, for a second, 1 second in your mind, you think, this isn't for me. You know, I shouldn't be doing this, you know. But that's you being challenged of, okay, pick yourself up, keep moving. This is for your life. This is your life right here, you know. And these instructors at the school are giving you information to help you, you know, and they care about you. So I'm looking for students that, again, open-minded, want to work hard, and can see the big picture, okay? That being said, we get all kinds of students, you know, and some of our students are pretty, you know, when you're 18 years old, you're still figuring out the world, you know, and yourself. And now you just took on this really big project to get a degree in music and become a great drummer and a professional drummer. That's a lot of pressure, you know. So I'm also willing, and I like students. We get students that have a hard time with the criticism and have a hard time with the workload. And that's okay. I'm not going to turn that person away. I want us to be able to help that person and get their head together right, you know? So that's basically the kind of person. Their ability has to be good, but I'm more concerned about what kind of person they are and that they're understanding that the dedication that it takes to do any instrument or engineer or program or play any instrument, sing, you know, anything in your life, even if you decide not to do music, if you want to become a carpenter or a doctor or a lawyer or a businessman, a business owner, it's hard work. Everything in life, you know, if it means something, you have to put a lot of work into it. And I find the young people that don't understand that at that early age have a hard time later on in life, you know. So, but that's basically what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Also, based on that thing, I mean, you know, a lot of, or maybe most of the Chinese parents just worry about the music cannot help their kids to cover their life, to help their kids to make money, to live. So, I mean, you know, how do you feel about this part? And I mean, what's your thought?
That's a great question, Tank. It's a great question. I love hearing that, and I totally understand. My dad did not understand how, if I wasn't getting a check every week from the same source, how was I going to function? You know, it goes back to what I just said. It's hard to make it in any business, you know. So I think you have to pick something that is going to be your life. And the parents have to understand that it might take a little longer and it might be a little harder than some of the other jobs out there or industries. But there's plenty of lawyers out there that didn't get the big job, and they're just in a basement searching cases for the big lawyers, and it's grunt work, you know, and that's where they are, and they might be not happy. The most important thing I know about parents is this, and I tell students this all the time, and I experienced it when I was in college. your parents are mostly concerned that you're happy, at least here in the U.S., and I think it's universal. If you're happy, then your parents aren't going to worry about you so much. But if you are putting your stress of what you chose to do, like I'm going to become a drummer and I'm going to become a famous drummer, I'm going to make a living playing drums, that's on you. And you have to accept that. It's not on your parents. And you want them to sleep at night and not worry about you. So you have to let them know that you're working hard and you made the right decision. And again, back to a student having a bad day, you don't immediately call the parents telling them you had a bad day. They're going to worry too much, and you're going to put them through stress that they don't need to be put through, So I tell parents, like, I understand the industry is difficult, but there is money to be made out there. You can make money. I'm not on the cover of Modern Drummer, but I own a home in Los Angeles. I'm not a famous drummer. I never will be, but I work. There's so many drummers out there that we don't know of necessarily that are making good livings because they have all the skills, not just one skill. They're a good drummer. They're a good businessman. They make smart decisions. They don't burn bridges. They have good relationships with people. That's so important, to treat everyone with respect. And to be successful, you want to be the person that someone doesn't have to worry about. You want to be the person that is solid. And as a drummer, that's our job, and you're going to work, The problem is, and where it can go wrong is if you only focus on maybe one thing of drumming and you ignore, you don't have to be amazing at everything. I can't play Latin music that good, but I learned enough to where, I didn't ignore it, So it's a tough question, and I don't have a perfect answer, but when parents worry about their children, they would worry about their kid in anything they chose to do. They would worry, It's just easy target to say music, because, there's so many struggling, but there's so many doing great too. We have so many graduates that are doing great work, studio work, touring, but the reality, at least in my case, it definitely was a slower, process. I didn't buy a house when I was 25. I bought a house when I was 45, you know what I mean? So, or maybe 40, you know what I mean? But that's okay because I've been happy and I'm living my life. You have to live life, and you have to dedicate yourself. That's what it is. If you're going to do something, you have to be all in, and you can't expect anyone to just hand it to you. Luck definitely happens. We get lucky sometimes. Some cool things happen, like, oh, wow, I got lucky. But it's because I put myself in the position to get lucky, So that's my answer for that.
Thank you so much.